online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM. This is Wycombe Sound, the Wycombe Wanderers Show.
Welcome to the first Wycombe Wanderers Show of 2021. It's also the first in Tier 4 Lockdown 3, meaning it's the first show that we've not done together. But we are separate. But
it's going to be very exciting, though, and you're not going to notice any difference other than the fact that we've referred to it right at the beginning.
Bob is talking to us from Woburn Green. I'm in Wycombe, and we have a fantastic action-packed hour planned for you.
We do indeed. We are going to hear from Gareth Ainsworth after the Cardiff City win, which does seem like a while ago now, but we haven't had a show since then, so we thought that it was important to bring you his reaction to a win. We're also going to be hearing from Ryan Tafazoli after that game as well.
And the Middlesbrough game, reaction from Gareth as well. It was unfortunate in that we didn't pick up the 3 points, but very exciting to score first in that and the Cardiff games.
Yeah, it started so well. I had such high hopes, but to be fair, Middlesbrough did then go up a few gears and for half an hour were really, really good. But I thought the great thing was actually we came back, particularly in the second half, and we did play really, really well. And we weren't that far away from getting an equaliser. We will also today be hearing from Neil Peters. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at Adams Park. Obviously, this week we've had the news that Adams Park will be one of the vaccination centres in the battle against COVID. We'll be hearing from Neil about all of the things that the club have had to do to prepare.
And continuing our fantastic alliance, collaboration, delete the inapplicable, with the Ex-Player Association, we'll chat to Paul Birdseye, who, among other things, he was a defender, played at the club between 71 and 82, and also played during that famous FA Cup third-round tie, home and away against Middlesbrough in 1975, the first time in the club's history they reached the third round, which is quite timely, considering that we're in third-round action this weekend, and a rather historical moment as well this weekend too.
Indeed, yes, it's the first time, of course, that, yes, we have gone straight into the third round. We will be hearing from Gareth Ainsworth ahead of the game against Preston North End, getting his thoughts as he faces one of his former clubs.
So lots to get through. We better crack on. Cardiff then was a fantastic win. As I say, they scored first as well, which was it doesn't happen very often, so a great feeling.
No, and you just see the difference that it actually makes when we do score first, because Cardiff were then in the Wycombe Wanderers role, really, of having to chase the game, and they never really looked like getting back into it. I thought we did so well, just doing all those things that Wycombe do very well, which was slowing the game down, frustrating Cardiff, and they did get quite frustrated. And yes, okay, they got a goal back with 40 seconds to go or something, and it was a slightly nerve-wracking last 40 seconds or so, but even so, we safely got the 3 points in the end.
You must feel as well, it's so good for all of the Wycombe Wanderers players to be playing at this level, but there are certain players in certain games where you feel especially pleased for, and Joe Jacobson playing against Cardiff is something that was a bit special.
Yeah, definitely. The club where he started his career, obviously a club that means a lot to him. The fact that he got one of the assists for the goal, definitely, was really, really good. And fantastic to see Ryan Tafazoli. He was obviously the one who got the goal, but he was brilliant, really, at both ends, to be honest. Really, he is really dangerous when we have corners and when crosses go in. But at the same time, looks really, really solid, and is one of those players that you definitely want at the back. Just helping out and ensuring that actually when corners come in the other way that that he's there heading them away.
We'll be hearing from Ryan in a few moments' time, but first Matt Cecil spoke to manager Gareth Ainsworth after the game.
Gareth, we've talked for so long about good performances not getting the result they deserve, but tonight everything came together.
Yeah, I'm really pleased, Mike. I thought balance was really important tonight. They're a big threat, really. Set plays, they've scored a lot of their goals from set players, so David Wheeler comes in, Ikpeazu, Tafazoli, some big lads for me to help with that. But also the threat of Horgan, McCleary, Anis Mehmeti. I thought the game was superb, and I thought we nullified what Cardiff have shown in recent weeks of what they can do, and I thought we deserved the result. It's not one of that we've played bad and got a lucky result. I thought we deserved it. It's been coming, and I'm really pleased. It's nice to be on the end of a win at especially when everyone else wins around us as well. The bottom of the table's tightening up, and we want to be right in that mix. 2
brilliant deliveries for the goals. The first from Joe Jacobson, a special night for him up against Cardiff, and he's got the assist for a bullet header from Ryan Tafazoli.
Yeah, and Ryan, has come in and made his mark, but what can we say about Joe Jacobson? People probably thought the Championship might be a stretch for him. He's been one of our most consistent performers. I think he's an incredible guy. He's been with me right from the start of the success sort of era, the Wembley season onwards, and I couldn't be without him. One of the best left backs in the lower leagues, and now he's proving himself in the Championship, which is brilliant. Ryan Tafazoli, we know what he's about. We've tried to sign him numerous occasions. He's just had a nightmare with his ankle after the Swansea game. He played on with a ligament injury. That shows the desire he wants for the club, but it cost him a couple of months out, and to have him back was good. I thought he was calm, defended really well alongside Josh Knight, who again was superb. But the changes, Wheeler and Mete coming in, Hikpiezu, I thought had a fantastic full Championship debut. And then I've got the big man to put on, Akin Fenwick, calm things down Bloomfield. We've got a good squad here. It's just keeping everyone fit, keeping the balance right, and tough night, because Hoylett, Murphy coming off the bench, 2 great players, and they did cause a few problems, but I was really pleased that we'd done the damage already and stopped Cardiff in the first half, especially Wilson. He's a great player, and I think Kiefer Moore and Morrison going off, all these things just went in our favour. We took advantage, really pleased to get the result. A little bit cold now, so looking forward to getting in my office and celebrating with Dobbo, having a look back at the game, seeing what we could have done better. The boys gave me everything, they deserve that tonight, and I'm so pleased for them.
Finally, that closes the curtain on 2020, a year you won't forget.
Everyone says they've had a bad year, 2020. I'm thinking we've had a hell of a year. Wycombe Wanderers in the Championship, July the 13th was, the best night for this club ever, and I still remember those videos of the fans saying blow the whistle and how we went up, and this is what it's for. If they can't come back this season, I want to stay in the Championship so they can come back next season and support us. That's my aim, try and get above that line. I've got a brilliant backing from Rob and Pete, Andrew Howard, who they're all working behind the scenes to try and keep this squad strong and get the best out of us, and I'll work every minute of the day to try and keep this club in the Championship. It's brilliant, love my job, and love this club.
Definitely sounds like we're in safe hands. Before we hear from him, tell us a bit about Ryan Tafazoli's contribution against Cardiff.
Yeah, as I say, I thought he was really, really good against Cardiff. It was a super goal from a JJ corner. Real bullet header. Definitely, he now looks like the finished article. I think because obviously he played a couple of games and then spent a long time out injured. We weren't quite sure whether he was going to be one of those players that actually we could rely on. But definitely, having seen him against Cardiff, he really does look like one that we're going to want to hang on to.
He spoke to Matt Cecil after the game as well.
Taff, it's been a start to your life at Wycombe Wanderers, but tonight must have felt like the wait was been worth it.
Yeah, to be honest, but frankly, it's been nothing short of a nightmare start in terms of the injury. Got it early on against Swansea, played on with it, and I literally couldn't get over it. Rushed it back probably too quickly in hindsight, and it has been very frustrating, but it's good to finally get over that now and get back out on the pitch.
I know you've been watching the games, and it must be frustrating seeing the boys perform so well, not get the results they deserve, and you haven't been able to play your part up until now.
Yeah, it is. It has been very frustrating because the boys, there's been so many games where we've been a better team, but I just said then it's the key moments and the fine lines which have gone against us. Fortunately tonight, and thankfully tonight, it has gone our way, and we deserved 3 points tonight, and we got them.
That looked like a fun goal to score, a perfect delivery from JJ, who I'm sure himself had been looking forward to this game up against Cardiff, and exactly where he'd want the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Look, his left foot's probably the best in the league, so you've always got a chance if you can attack the ball and pick up the fly early. He's going to put it on the money, and that's what he did tonight.
You're one of the few players in the squad with Championship experience. Your time with Hull prior to this, has it met your expectations, and how do you think the boys have gradually been able to adapt to life in the second tier?
Yeah, I think at the start it may have been a little bit of a shock to the system for us. Obviously we didn't win in a handful of games and we didn't pick up many points, but I think since then we've been the better team turned that corner, and we've been a better team most games, and we should have won many games that we haven't, and we should have picked up draws when we've lost. So the boys really have adapted well, and we can only look forward now.
And finally, sort of going back to your impressions of joining the club, our paths have crossed previously with you at Mansfield in League 2 and Peterborough in League 1. What were your feelings joining the Wycombe Wanderers, having come up against us a few times in your career? Yeah,
I always knew what Wycombe was about, and I think it suited me massively. You know, one of the coaches at Hull City used to be here, Barry Richardson, who I was close with, and he told me all about it before I came, and you know, it was massively appealing to me, and I felt I could be a good addition to the team and the squads. It's been even better than I expected, to be honest. Like, you know, I don't want to use the cliche. It has been. It's like a family here, and everyone wants everyone to do their best, and if we keep doing that, we'll pick up wins.
Ryan Tafazoli speaking after the win against Cardiff. Then on Saturday, we faced Middlesbrough at Adams Park. Unfortunately, going down 3-1. We did manage to score first. Gareth spoke to Matt Cecil after the game.
Gareth, that's the midway point in the season, and a disappointing result to reflect on today, but overall, you know, your side are competitive in this division and can stay up.
Yeah, do you know, I'm looking back and I'm counting on one hand the times when I've been disappointed. I'm disappointed today. We were second best in a lot of challenges and set plays, and you know, in the game it wasn't flowing, passing great moves that ripped us apart. It's two set plays and a giveaway in midfield, you know, but they put pressure on you to get those set plays. They put pressure on you to give that ball away in midfield, and that's Neil Warnock's side, you know. He's got them really organised, working so hard, and we're very similar, but they were better. They're a big club, you know, and look at Middlesbrough last year and Middlesbrough this year. There's only one reason for that, you know. It's Neil Warnock, what he's come in and done, and what he does to teams, and you've got to stand up and make it count. And we had chances, we've got to stick them in the goal, but we're second best today, and I don't often say that, but I'll take that on the chin. I'm not going to try and dress it up and talk about how we could have got something. We could have made our chances count, you know, but they executed theirs really well, and I'm sure they're going to be up and around it at the end of the season.
Let's pick a positive then. Uche Piezu, first goal in the Championship, and what a goal to score.
Fantastic, you know, what a start. He's showing what he's going to bring to Wycombe, and the big positive is, you know, it's only his second start because of injury, because of, you know, his and Ryan Tafazoli as well, you know. I thought both of them, again, they're growing in the game, but what a strike, you know. I'm so pleased for him. He's such a humble, hard-working guy, wants to learn, and he's so grateful of his chance in the Championship. He came over to me and said, "Thank you for bringing me." You know, after he said, that's brilliant for me. I'm proud of the boys, always proud of them. They give me everything. Today just wasn't enough against a real good Middlesbrough team.
There's something quite nice, especially I recalled from the Cardiff post-match comments that he said about a number of the players who are coming back, and I think Uche definitely one of those. Could be really exciting now that we're starting to see more of him.
I thought he was brilliant against Middlesbrough, and finally looks like a player who might actually be our answer to, well, what do we do when we can't play Bayo? He just looks like he's full of tricks. He's really, really difficult to play against. I think, again, a bit like Tafazoli, you know, he's definitely one that we want to hang on to. He looks like he's really, really good and fantastic, and absolutely lovely to hear how humble he is as well. The fact that he's going up to Gareth and saying things like, "Thank you for bringing me here," that clearly says a lot about how much he values being at Wycombe Wanderers.
It does seem to mean a lot, doesn't it, to all the players, as I sort of touched on earlier, being able to play in the Championship at this level for this club.
Yes, and I think it's also about playing for this club and about the way that the management then treat the players. I think they are very, very aware that actually, if they were at another club, other clubs with this sort of record where they're bottom of the table, you know, they would be having a really unpleasant time, a really, really rough time in the dressing room. And you know that that's not how Gareth treats people. It is very much, you know, he treats every game, as it comes. The negatives don't hang about for very long. You know, he reviews the game, they discuss it, and then they move on, and they really do move on. he's not then bringing up negative points. It is such a positive place, even now, when yes, we are bottom of the table, but it's still a very, very positive dressing room. And I think that's probably why players like coming, and playing for Wycombe Wanderers so much. And we've seen so many players, as we've said previously, who've been here, who've gone away, and they come back. The Jason McCarthy's, Fred, so many players have eventually come back to Gareth, and I'm sure players like Uchi are really enjoying playing for him.
It's a really good advert for the club and Gareth and his backroom staff as well. More positive news this week as well, that Adams Park will be used as a vaccination centre for the coronavirus inoculation. Great news for everyone connected with the club. And Neil Peters, who's the Chief Commercial Officer, is someone who is especially proud of this news.
Yes, Colin, it is. It's an honour really to be involved in such a huge and important programme. From the initial conversations that we had, Rob Kuig, our owner, was absolutely sort of adamant that we should be right at the centre, right at the front really, of trying to sort this pandemic out locally for the local community. So no better place really than the local football stadium to be used. So yeah, we're very pleased to be strongly involved.
What was the process like? Did you have to apply, or were you selected?
It was a long process that involves a lot of people. Obviously, it's clearly unprecedented. It's not something that's happened before. So the process was quite lengthy. A lot of meetings with a lot of people. There's people from the police involved, fire service, site surveys, local practitioners. So yeah, it was quite lengthy. But it was initial contact actually regarding a mass vaccination, which is for the 18 to 65s. I had an initial conversation regarding that, and I think it then spiralled into this first wave, which is the 65 plus. So we find out later on this week, we sort of clarify later on this week whether we'll also be used for the mass vaccination. I'm thinking that's quite likely.
And that's the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccination, which will be given at Adams Park.
Yes, indeed, it is. So it arrived yesterday. The first sort of batch arrived yesterday afternoon. Was spent vaccinating sort of local practitioners and care workers and those that are going to be involved in administering the vaccine to the public over the coming weeks. So yeah, it arrived yesterday. It's ready. It's great that it's here, and it's great that at last some people maybe have got a glimmer of hope.
It must be quite a logistical thing to need to set up, though, because I imagine obviously you'll get thousands of people coming to Adams Park, which is something that hasn't happened for a while.
Yeah, there's a huge irony in that at last we've got people, in their droves it will be, coming back, not for the reason that we would want, however, for a good reason. And, on a slightly selfish note, you could argue, maybe from my perspective, that this is a step forward in getting the fans back to Adams Park, because I'm sure as the vaccine takes control and cases start to drop, we will start seeing changes in government directive, which hopefully I would think, at some point, and let's hope it is this season, I'm hoping maybe March onwards, that we will start to see some relaxation and we will see fans coming back to Adams Park for the right reason, which is to see, the Blues play in the Championship. And it will be a dogfight at that point, I'm sure, but we still have every chance of being in that Championship next year, where we should have fans back.
It does seem quite a natural selection, doesn't it? Because I know that you do have blood donor sessions at the club as well, so this kind of fits quite nicely with that, I suppose. Yeah,
blood donors, that's the only, once the first wave hit, actually, we had to close our sort of conferencing facilities. The only thing that I allowed, or we as a club allowed to continue, was blood donor and the NHS. So they've been coming in still regularly, and yeah, it's a nice fit. It's a good location. It's kind of out of the way. It has a large car park, which is therefore easy to position people. The whole thing is about logistical nightmare, really. It is. You clearly can't just have a load of people turning up, wandering around. So there's stewards in the car park that will be making sure that, I think, patients or people are going in groups of 20. They've all got to be signed in. They've got to read some documentation. Obviously have the vaccine. Then they've got to sit for 15 minutes, effectively supervised before they can leave the premises. So it will just be one long sort of treadmill process, really, that has to be very, very carefully managed. But we've got the right spaces, we've got the right access and egress. So everybody that's come down to do the site surveys are very, very pleased with it. It's now just a case of let's crack on and let's make a difference to our community in the UK.
Obviously, this isn't the reason for it, but you imagine it might be quite a nice opportunity as well for people who are coming to the ground to think, oh, look, there's a Championship football club here. We should come here again.
That hadn't even dawned on me, Colin. No. Obviously, listen, we love to have people down at Adams Park. The fact is, we're at the end of a cul-de-sac sort of trading estate. Therefore, nobody ever drives past Adams Park. So I'm very aware that the only people that know where Adams Park is because they've been there before. There are going to be waves of people coming to Adams Park that have never been to the football stadium before. And although, as we say, they're not coming for the reason that we would like, let's hope that some of those people in the coming months and for the next few months and seasons and years, this might be their first introduction to a club that they then become affiliated with. So, yeah, it's good to be on the map. It's good to have thousands, and it will be thousands of people over the next few months, possibly a year. It's good to have people knowing where we are, putting us on the map, and let's hope we see them return for the right reasons.
It might be hard to say, but how big an impact would you say the coronavirus has had on the club commercially? Obviously, you've not had the huge crowds on a match day that you'd have liked.
Huge, yeah, absolutely huge. I actually, lifelong fan, worked for the club before, but I started at the beginning of March. So I started as Chief Commercial Officer. I was there for a couple of weeks, and then the pandemic hit and everybody was furloughed by myself and a couple of others. It's had a huge commercial impact, most notably, as you say, the fans not coming in. So, number one, we're not able to sell tickets. Number two, as you will know, when people turn up at a football match, they buy a beer, a burger, a shirt. So commercially, it's hit us really hard. That said, we've worked incredibly hard on some new platforms to make a difference to the club and to make sure that we were still making money in slightly new ways. So we launched our online store, which we didn't have before. That's gone very well for us. We've done numerous things. We added the Wanderers Wall, which is where people could buy a tile and have it personalised, and that's gone up in the car park. It's fair to say promotion helped us a little secure some bigger deals. We did a great deal with Dreams Beds. But at the same point, it's been a very, very tough year. It still is. We are now obviously still looking at how we can bring money in for the rest of the year. We need to secure finances for the club. It's been a tough one for the owners, who really signed up their 75% maybe a month before the pandemic hit. So they've never really had the opportunity to grow it as they wish. However, they're very inventive and they're very supportive, and I would say we're probably doing an awful lot better than some other clubs of similar size because of the enthusiasm and innovation that's been taking place behind the scenes.
Is there a real feeling of optimism that perhaps, towards the end of the season, fans will get to return and perhaps you'll be able to, show them what they've been missing, if you like, in terms of an Adams Park experience?
Yes, there is. I was on a Zoom call yesterday with Pete and Rob Couig. Pete's UK-based and is here now. Rob still in Louisiana. There is some optimism. We are, we've got no facts and figures to go by, but we're planning that we think with a vaccination taking place and maybe taking a hold that maybe fans will possibly start returning in March. That's what we're looking to. Of course, we've had a couple of games where we had some fans in, 2,000 fans in. That was great. It's a little bit of a tease, really, because it's beautiful to see people back in Adams Park cheering on the Blues, and then all of a sudden, there's a halt to that. But there has to be optimism. Football fans will return. Of that, there's no question. But the question is when. Therefore, you have to sort of put a line in the sand and say to yourselves, right, we've got to be geared up and ready for that occasion. But fans will return to see. There's been loads of changes in the stadium. Those fans that have been in have already seen it. From new floodlights to the LED perimeter board advertising to new dugouts to the things that we've done in the car park, the new shop. So, yeah, fans that have not been for some time are going to, when they first return to Adams Park, they're certainly going to realise that there's an awful lot of work has gone on behind the scenes, and this is a club that's certainly not, stood still during the pandemic period.
And just finally, what's your message to both supporters and indeed the wider community about the fact that, you'll be a venue for the vaccination? The
message, first and foremost, I would say, is please do not turn up uninvited. That's really important. I appreciate that some people would like to turn up just to see where they will be going as and when they get the call. But the logistics of getting people through the gates and getting them parked and keeping them socially distanced would mean that we only want people on site, certainly, that have had the invite, I believe, direct from their local practitioners. So, the message to all is please don't turn up until requested. The message to all is also, when you turn up, please follow the guidelines that you've been given. Have your jab, and let's hope that we see you back at Avon Park for the right reasons, supporting the community football team, the championship football team, and that we can put this horrendous time for everybody well and truly behind us.
Great to speak to you. Thank you very much, Neil, for your time.
No problem. Thank you, Colin.
That's Neil Peters. Fantastic to hear what the club are doing with regards to the coronavirus vaccine centre. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we will be hearing from ex-player Paul Birdseye.
This is Wycombe Sound.
Part 2 of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. It's going well, isn't it? I think. Give some feedback. Is it going well? Hello?
It's going very well.
We can do that a bit later.
The only trouble is that occasionally my Wi-Fi drops out.
Oh.
As happened just then. I know.
I generally
Adams Park.
I generally thought you were going to say your wife drops out.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I've got it now. So yes, second part of the Wycombe Wanderers Show. Still to come, we'll be hearing from manager Gareth Ainsworth ahead of the FA Cup third round tie against Preston on Saturday. But coming up now, someone who played for Wycombe in the third round of the FA Cup, Paul Birdseye, against Middlesbrough. We'll have more from him on that in a few moments' time. But he was a defender at the club between 1971 and 1982. So let's find out how he first became associated with the club.
The first time I pulled on a Wycombe Wanderers shirt was actually in the FA Youth Cup as a 15-year-old. I played in the Wycombe Under-14 League with Wymead, and somehow or other was selected to play as a 15-year-old in this Youth Cup at Oxford City under floodlights. It was my first ever experience of floodlights. And I think we won 3-1, and I managed to score a header, which was more luck than judgment, because I didn't see it all coming out of the floodlights.
So when you first started playing, it must have been fantastic to know that, as you were saying off air, that your dad played as well, so you're kind of carrying on the family tradition, if you like.
Exactly. And I think there was actually a press cutting the week after in the Buck Street Press with a photograph of me and a headline, "Like father, like son," which I think I've still got that cutting somewhere, amongst other cuttings. But then the rest of that season, I played. Wycombe ran 3 sides in those days, in the mid-60s, so there was a reserve team, and what they called the A team, who played in the Wycombe League, the Wycombe Combination. So I was playing with people like Bob Donaldson, Lou Radmore, Dave Roberton, people like that, who I still see occasionally at either the ex-players' golf do's or at the club dinners. So that was my first introduction. But then in 1966, my dad was a rep in the veneer industry and got a job with a company based in Halesowen, so we moved up to Evesham. So I did my A-levels at grammar school in Evesham, and then went to Loughborough for 3 years to train as a PE teacher. And in my third year at Loughborough, which was 1970-71, I was playing for the English Universities team and also the British PE colleges team. It was quite an interesting story, actually, because the manager of the English Universities team was a guy called Roy Rees, who was a lecturer at Liverpool University, but he was also manager of Skelmersdale in the Northern Premier League. And he had Steve Highway and Brian Hall, who both went on to great things. They played for him the year before I was introduced to the team. And Roy wanted me to go and play for Skelmersdale. So I went on the train from Loughborough to Liverpool on a Thursday for an interview, spent 5 minutes talking about education and then an hour talking about football, and they presented me with a list of 13 jobs in Liverpool in PE departments and said, take your pick. So I said, well, yes, OK, I'll have a think about it. And that was on the Thursday. And the Friday, I was playing for the British PE colleges at Lokes Park against Wycombe Wanderers under floodlights. And I clearly had a pretty good game because Brian Lee came up to me afterwards and asked me if I'd come and play for Wycombe, which seemed a little less scary than going to somewhere completely strange like Skelmersdale. So that was on the Friday night, and I agreed and said, well, I need a job. And he said, oh, don't worry, we'll sort something out, but we'll try and help you. And shortly after that, I had a letter to invite me to an interview for a teaching job at Ashmead School in Reading. And it turned out the head of the PE department was a lawn tennis coach who did a lot of work at Bisham, so Brian knew him quite well. And this particular head of PE, who shall remain nameless, came up to me when I arrived at the school for the interview and said, well, there are 6 of you on the interview, but don't worry, you've already got the job. And that was it. My first season at Wycombe was 71-72, with pre-season training at Bisham Abbey. And having just come out of PE college, I was pretty fit, so that wasn't too arduous. And the very first league game was at home to, I think it was Bromley. And I scored the first league goal of the season with a diving header from a Ted Powell free kick, and we went on to win the league that year, which was great. I think we were at Averley in the Amateur Cup early in the new year, so that would have been 1972. And I fractured my shin making a last-ditch tackle and hardly played for the rest of the season and missed out on our Amateur Cup semi-final at Griffin Park at Brentford when we lost 2-1 to Brentford. But the upside of it was that on the Easter Monday we were in the Berks and Bucks Cup final at Maidenhead, and I met my wife, who is still my wife.
What a fateful day that turned out to be.
Well, I know, awful. She's just walked into the room. I've never got over the shock, Colin.
You've been paying for it ever since.
Oh, and she says she's never got over the surname.
It must have been such a fantastic feeling as well, though, to be playing for the club that you followed as a youngster in the town that you grew up in, and obviously that your dad played for as well.
Yes, absolutely. And I think you don't really give it too much thought at the time, the sort of responsibility, because we've always, as a club, been very well supported, given the size of the town, and in those early days of my career at the club, we were getting 3,500 people per game, and that was in what was the Rothmans Isthmian League at the time. And if we played Slough, Hendon, maybe Enfield at the time, we'd perhaps get 4,500 there. It's quite extraordinary, the support.
And all of the eras seem to have something really special about them. I'm sure, the group of players that you watched and got to know kind of growing up as well, that was a pretty special time for the club too.
Yes, absolutely. And just to go back to the Len Worley story, in my last year at Loughborough, we drew Hayes in the FA Amateur Cup at Loughborough. And I looked at the team sheet and I saw this left winger. I was playing right back at the time. Saw this left winger, Len Worley, and I thought to myself, being an arrogant young chap, Len Worley, he's got to be getting out of his wheelchair to play in this game. And I hardly got near him all game. But whenever I see him at our ex-player functions, I have a joke with him about that. And we've always got on really well. And he keeps himself in incredibly good shape for somebody who's probably 10 years older than me. He's doing great.
I guess as well, sort of in the position that you played, it must be fantastic sort of to have that kind of group mentality with other defenders and your other teammates as well.
Yes, and I mean, the game has definitely changed. In those days, sliding tackles were permitted and you could use your elbows. I always believed in getting my retaliation in first if I needed to. And some of the things that we collectively as players did in those days, we'd probably be done for grievous bodily harm these days. It was a far more physical game than it is now in terms of physical contact, although I think they're probably better, more highly tuned athletes than we were in those days. Certainly the pace of the game now is extraordinary compared with how I remember it anyway.
And just fantastic that the players were had other jobs as well and had to fit in training and playing and travelling to matches as well. It was quite a commitment.
Well, yes. In fact, I lived in Reading for a couple of years, and Barbie and I decided we wanted to buy a house when we got married, which was in August 73. So we bought a house in Newbury, and at the same time, I decided I didn't much care for the paycheck that I got at the end of each month as a teacher, so got into estate agency and was based in Newbury. So I was travelling backwards and forwards from Newbury 3 times a week, and then we moved up to Wantage for a couple of years, where our daughter was born. And in that year when I was at Wantage, or 2 years, I was doing sort of 50,000 miles a year, backwards and forwards to Wycombe 3 times a week. It's quite a strain, and I have to say that I was very lucky in having a tolerant wife who hardly ever saw me.
But sees a lot more of you these days.
She does, yes. We're both retired now and enjoying the sea air on the south coast.
Fantastic. Are there any particular games that do stand out? Obviously, there's things like the FA Amateur Cup semi-final, also the sort of promotions that you had as well. Must have been some standout matches.
Yes, I don't know that they all stand out for the right reasons. In my second season, I'd had a fairly bad ankle injury, and I was on crutches for a couple of weeks. And when I got back to some semblance of fitness, Brian Lee said to me, I think you should go to Maidenhead and get your match fitness back. Just go on loan for a few weeks. My first game was at Maidenhead under floodlights on a Tuesday night against Southall, and they had a very tricky little winger who twice got the ball and went past me like I wasn't there. So the third time I managed to time it perfectly and put him over the fence, and it turned out to be Gordon Hill, who then went on to play for Man United in England. But they also had Alan Devonshire in the team, who had a very distinguished career with West Ham, and my future brother-in-law, little did I know it at the time, a Borough Road PE graduate who finished up marrying my sister-in-law. So yeah, that was one of my more memorable games. And I think the same season we played at Walton and Hersham, and their pitch had an athletics track around the outside. It was called Stompond Lane, the ground, and a certain character who went on to great things with Wimbledon by the name of Dave Bassett was playing for Wimbledon, and he got sent off, and he far side of the pitch, he took his shorts off and walked all around the outside of the pitch in his jockstrap. That was quite memorable.
That would stand out.
And did a Mooney to all the fans in the stand. Obviously, the 2 matches we played against Middlesbrough in 75 stand out as being absolutely memorable. But we outplayed Middlesbrough in the home game. Whether that was a question of them taking us too lightly, or the sloping pitch was playing havoc with their mind and their tactics, I don't know. It was a different story at Ayresome Park in the replay, I must admit. I think we were quite relieved to see their winning goal go in the last minute, because most of us were sort of out on our feet.
That must be a game that must be a real source of pride, though, because a lot of people still talk about that, don't they?
That's absolutely fantastic. The Middlesbrough players actually lined up and applauded us off the pitch, just like the rugby players do. It was quite extraordinary. And to play in front of 30,000 people at Ayresome Park was very special.
And we've got the FA Cup coming up this weekend, of course. That must really sort of jog your memory as well.
Oh, it does. In fact, the home match against Middlesbrough was played on the Saturday, but it was at the big match, main feature match on the Sunday afternoon with Brian Moore. And I was actually more nervous watching it on the Sunday afternoon on the TV than I was the day before, and I knew the result already anyway. It was quite bizarre.
What was it like playing under Brian Lee?
Brian was great. He was certainly a disciplinarian, and you knew what was expected of you. He hated John Maskell, who was mainly the goalkeeper that I played with. He didn't want John Maskell to roll the ball out to the full-backs, or that none of this playing from the back. He wanted him to launch the ball forward to Keith Searle, who was a fantastic target man. And then we had people like Mickey Holyfield, Howard Kennedy, Larry Pritchard, would know roughly where the ball's going, and it was a fairly stereotyped system that we played, but it was very effective. And when you have the quality of players that we had in the side, it worked. And I think we won the league, won the Isthmian League. I believe it was 3 times in the first 4 years I was there, which was really quite some achievement, because there were some very good sides in the league. The likes of Enfield, Hendon, Slough started to become a force to reckon with, who we always seemed to play on Boxing Day, which was an absolute nightmare. But yes, it was. Brian was very good to work under. There was one incident I remember. I can't remember which season it was, but we had a good midfield player came to join us by the name of Barry Davis, who then went on to have a very successful career at Leatherhead with my brother-in-law, funny enough. And Barry had been pre-season training with us, good midfield player, looked really good, played the first 3 or 4 league matches, and then we were at home to Enfield, and he wasn't selected. So when we were getting after the team had been announced, we were getting changed for the game, and Barry said to Brian, "Could I have a word with you, please, Brian?" So they went outside, and 5 minutes later, Brian came back into the dressing room and said, "Just to let you gentlemen know that Barry Davis is no longer a member of this football club." The fact that he questioned Brian's selection was enough for him to go.
Did it feel such a special period at the club, being in the Isthmian League and playing at Lokes Park and being there for so long as you were?
Every season was special. It just became the norm. Eventually, we moved back to Hazelmere in 1976, and I was back in the Wycombe area full time. Our social life had centred around Wycombe for 5 or 6 years, and it seemed to make sense to come back and live in the area. And I was in estate agency still, and was offered a job with Howard Son and Gooch, who had an office in Easton Street. So that was very convenient, living in Hazelmere and not having to travel too far for home matches. And I remember we always used to train on a Thursday night, and I'd be driving from Hazelmere at about 6:45, and on the radio they were always playing the top LPs of the week, and I listened to a track of Fleetwood Mac's Rumours virtually every Thursday night for a year, travelling to training, because it was number one in the LP charts for so long. Interestingly, one of my former teammates, Dave Alexander, who lived in Slough, he was in the PE department at what was Wellsbourne School.
Yes, I moved to William Ramsey and was my teacher.
Oh, was he really? Okay. Well, I helped coach the Wycombe Schools team with Dave Alexander.
Oh, wow.
Although I gave up teaching after 5 terms, I still had that desire to be involved with coaching at some level. So it was the Apache Cubs in Marlow. It was the Wycombe Schools under 10s, under 11s, right up to under 14s, I think. Marlow Park Cricket Club, I coached the youngsters there, and then when I retired from football, I got involved in rugby coaching, and I coached my son's age group from under 8s right through to Bucks under 21s, and loved every moment of it.
So it's great that you're at the club for 11 years. What kind of happened to you after that, if you like?
Well, in my last season, which was the 82-83 season, Mike Keane was manager, and Alan Davis was assistant manager, who I had played with, incidentally, at Wymead in the under-14 league. And Mike was a lovely, gentle character who I don't think was particularly good with budgets. He had to shed 1 or 2 personnel. John Maskell had retired from playing and had gone to Oxford City as manager, and he asked me if I would be interested in going and playing for Oxford. So Mike Keane and myself came to an agreement, and I left Wycombe, I can't remember when, but it was probably October/November in 1982, and spent the rest of that season at Oxford City in the next division down of the Isthmian League. There were 3 of us playing from the Wycombe area. Dave Alexander, who lived in Slough, a local player, John Watt, who'd played for various local teams, and myself. So we used to meet at what used to be the Crest Hotel, which is now the Holiday Inn at Handy Cross. I was now a junior partner in an estate agency in Marlow and lived in Marlow. So I had a company car, so we'd meet at the Crest Hotel, jump in the car, I'd fly up the motorway at goodness knows what speed, and the three of us were invariably the first three to get there for training or matches, and we're invariably the last three to leave as well. We had a really good season. I enjoyed my time very much there at Oxford City, and was pre-season training for the next season when I had decided to leave the estate agency. Well, I didn't leave the estate agency profession. I left the company I was with. They'd been bought by Lloyds Bank, and instead of being in charge of an office running the show, hiring and firing, I was having to fill in a form in triplicate just to get a typewriter ribbon. So I'd had enough of that, and coincidentally at the same time, there was a vacancy for the commercial manager's job at Wycombe, because the then commercial manager, Mike Phillips, went to Southampton as their commercial manager. So I had an interview with Brian and Ivor Beeks, and I was commercial manager at Wycombe for 4 years. And whilst I was there, the club had reintroduced a reserve team, and I did have one or two run-outs with the reserve team just to keep my eye in and to perhaps make up the numbers if they were a bit short. And there was the likes of Graham Bressington playing and Paul West. A lot of the local younger players were in the side. So that was kind of a fun time. But then I really did miss the buzz of the property market. So I then, after 4 years at the club, as commercial manager, I set up my own business with a business partner. We set up a relocation business acting for corporate clients who were moving staff into the UK, which was very helpful because with a teaching background, I was able to help with not only the housing side of things, but also the education side, finding suitable schools for the kids and things like that. So I did that until 2003 when I got fed up battling with traffic wardens in London the whole time. So I had a complete change of heart. My wife had just taken an early retirement package from BA and setting up her own training consultancy. And we decided that we were going to go to France. I bought some properties in France and spent 3 years in France developing them. That was 2003 to 2006, and then came back, and to be honest, I haven't done very much since then, Colin.
Oh, sounds very civilised.
I've done some property development over here. I have a friend in Bourne End who, with him, we've bought 2 or 3 properties and developed them and potted around. He's got his own business, and I occasionally come back up to the Wycombe area or Marlow area and help him with a bit of painting and decorating just to keep my eye in. But to all intents and my wife just come in again and said I sent her out to work full time and I potted around.
But you must look back so fondly on your time at the club, and also, as you say, with the sort of the help, if you like, of the Ex-Players Association as well. You can sort of keep that going.
I had a wonderful career at the club, and I don't regret any of my time there. Met some great characters, worked with some wonderful people, and it will always have a place in my heart. And having said earlier that my father passed away 3 years ago today, I took my mother to see him in the funeral directors, and he looked absolutely magnificent wearing his ex-player's tie, which was very special to him. Dad was one of the first members of the Ex-Players Association to be awarded a lifetime membership, which unfortunately didn't last very long, but he was very proud of his association with the club and always used to come and watch the games when I was playing. He passed away, he was 98 years old, so he'd have been 101 now.
Wow. Well, it's been fantastic to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome, Colin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much to Paul Birdseye, and a nice appearance from his wife as well. And many thanks to the Ex-Players Association as well for arranging so many interviews on the Wycombe Wanderers show. Earlier on today, Colin spoke to Gareth Ainsworth. Of course, we have now played 23 games, so that means that we are exactly halfway through the season. And Colin got Gareth's half-term report.
Things have gone pretty much as we thought they might, but the referee's decisions and maybe just a goal scorer short of having, a decent amount of points at the halfway point. I really, I'm not one to keep going on about some decisions, but we've looked back and we think we've like 6 or 7 points that really have been taken off us for poor decisions, and you can, everyone will be able to say this, but we feel really aggrieved on some of them, and had some feedback from the Referees Association saying that obviously there's been a couple of errors there, but we can't hide the fact as well that we haven't scored enough goals, and so that's something I want to look at. We always were going to be this team in the Championship that people were like, what the hell are Wycombe Wanderers doing in the Championship, and surely we can beat them, and I think we've surprised a few. I think we've been super competitive in games. Like I say, just sticking it in the back of the net at times has been just shy of that, and if we can get that going in the second half of the season, I think we'll have a real go at survival in this league, and I've got some great backing from the chairman, Rob Courig, and Pete Courig. Already we've brought Admiral Muskie in from Leicester. We're trying to get a couple more in the January window, and hopefully we can be strong for the second half of the season.
Yes, tell us about Admiral and what you like about him. I know you've got some great generals, now an Admiral as well.
Yeah, oh, nice one. We definitely have. And Addy, he's a goal scorer. He scores goals in that area where I think we've been lacking, which is between the posts and got penalty spot inwards. We don't seem to score enough goals in those positions. We score from outside the box. We score from wider positions or headers from corners. But those scrappy little goals that somebody's just there instinctively in the right place at the right time. Admiral's got that, and I've seen his plenty of footage. He comes on a big recommendation from a few people, and I think the game will suit him at this level. He's obviously learning still, and our loans, we can't go and get a Man United first team player or even a Norwich City first team player and bring him in, because financially it's just crippling for clubs. So what we have to do is we have to develop, and that's the same as Eberici Easy, who's now ripping it up in the Premier League, and Alfie Mawson again, who went on to fantastic things. Josh Knight had some great development early part of the season. So I think all these are in our favour. We develop players, so that means we have to take players who really haven't played anywhere, and we see something in them that we can bring out this potential. So Dennis Adenarin, again, another great example. So it's tough, but again, we believe in what we've brought in. We believe in the squad around them, and you mentioned the generals there. We've got a great ethos at this club and a great culture, which the boys buy into and helps with their development. So looking forward to seeing what Addy can give us. But he won't be the last one. There'll hopefully be a couple more coming in January at least, and we'll see where we end up.
Do you get a feeling that goals are coming? I know you've scored in the last 4 games, and the last 2 games you scored first, which is great.
Yeah, they definitely are. What we won't do is we won't lose the first 7 games again, which we did in the first part of the Championship, which really put us on the back foot, getting used to it. It's the first time in 133 years this club's been anywhere near this, and obviously we had to work things out. We had to get up to speed with the Championship, which is a fantastic league and a huge step. I'm lucky enough to have played in all the leagues, and I'll tell you, as a player, you probably don't see this step as much as you do as a manager. As a manager, wow, the step between the non-league and League 2 is, probably a doable step. And then from 2 to 1, again, you look at the clubs that come up, they always compete. But then the step from 1 to the Championship, I think, is enormous. And then the Championship to the Premiership, again, an enormous step. I think the two last steps are huge, and we're finding that out. But it's not unlike this club to achieve the impossible, and it seems even more impossible now where we are in the league, but I still believe we can survive in this Championship, and I really want to, because my biggest downer this season is that the fans aren't allowed to come in and see the Championship. We've had 2 games where we've had 2,000 fans, and that's it. That's the only people, the lucky people, who've seen us in the Championship, So I really want to survive, and hopefully we can get fans in next season at least, or towards the end of this season, and they can see Championship football, because wow, they've supported me long enough in Leagues 1 and 2, and they're missing out on all the good stuff. So really, really want them back, but it's my job now to keep this club up.
And it must be such a great source of pride to see literally all of the players that you've put out playing in the Championship and doing at that level.
Yeah, do you know what, honestly, Colin, it's what gives me great pride is the people who've worked here for so long. our press officer, Matt Cecil, Dawn in the office, Kelly, all the office staff, and then my staff, Richard Dobson, David Waits, Cian O'Doherty, who've been with me through thick and thin, stood on the sideline at Torquay with Dobbo, and went through all the heartache, and then we went to Wembley, and we've built this journey up. Do you know what? I'm really proud that they've got to do it. Obviously, better finances and increasing wages for people and all this sort of stuff just means so much to me, and I really want to stay up for these guys, and they're so proud of this club, and I want that, and the fans as well, honestly. I've had so many letters, so much support. In the early days, letters telling me how I should do it. In the later days, saying, well done, brilliant. And now, almost, we really want you to survive because we want to come back next year. It's brilliant, this club, and I love being a manager, and I will never take one day for granted.
Are all the letters from the same person? They're just changing their viewpoint each time.
Yeah. No, it's my mum has stopped writing it now. So no, it really has been. Honestly, over the years, it's been. There must be hundreds of letters that I've received, and honestly, some in the early days were, you shouldn't be playing like this. You should be doing this. What about this on set plays? And it was great. I think Mark O'Neill once told me that he used to keep letters and reply to them when he got successful and said, "There you go, that's what we've done." And I'm never I told you so, but I always want to think, hopefully they had faith. They saw what we were trying to develop, and it's not going to come overnight. And I'm sure there's a few now saying how we should do things. But do you know what? Beating Cardiff and Sheffield Wednesday and Birmingham, we've got some big games coming up. We've got the squad to beat teams in this league. Just need that little bit of luck, and also somebody stick it in the net. We really do. We've had chances, and it's just putting it in the net. That's what we've been shy of. And ironically, I've been harping on about professional referees for 5 years, and we suddenly get them. I'm thinking about, I don't know, I'm not going to get myself in trouble, but please be more favourable to Wycombe second half of the season, because we really deserve some decisions, believe me.
It must be great to be such a part of so many great stories. We spoke to Paul Birdseye earlier in the week, who played for Wycombe in '75 when they reached the third round of the FA Cup for the first time, and now you're leading the team into the FA Cup for the first time at this stage. Yeah,
and people like Paul, and obviously his dad passed away recently as well. These people are genuine, legends of Wycombe, and Tony Horseman and people like that who I've met on the ex-players' dues and things like that. It's just been phenomenal to be a part of the history of this club, and those guys are so humble, and it's brilliant that they now can say I played for Wycombe Wanderers, because Wycombe Wanderers has become a bigger team than it ever was, and so the pride that they must have saying I played for Wycombe Wanderers once, it's great, and that means a lot to me as well. So, because they've all been just nothing short of brilliant. There's not one ex-player or player or person involved with this club who's ever, been negative about anything. They've all been great, positive, and that's what this club's about, and that's why I love managing it.
And it must have meant a bit more to you, especially coming up against some of your former clubs at this level. Again, another one on Saturday.
Yeah, it's always nice to have your ex-clubs involved. I seem to have quite a few in this league, which is great, but it's a Wycombe Wanderers win all the way I want. Sorry, Preston fans, but I'll be hoping that we can turn them over at home. We nearly did away, but a cup win would be fantastic. And a league survival would just be the icing on the cake. We'll see what we can do. I'm
sure you get asked a lot, but do you prepare any differently for a cup game than you would for the league?
No. It's a game. It's a game of football at the end of the day. There's maybe in the later stages and finals and things like that, but I think as a player, remembering it's just another game. You've got to win it. Got to go out there and win it, whether it was Checkatrade or Papa John's it's called now, or League Cup, FA Cup, League, whatever it is. And I've played in some crazy cups over the years, what they've been called. It's always just been another day, another game. And as a footballer and as a professional person, you just want to win it.
It was great to see on the website the New Year message from the chairman. Have you got a particular message you'd like to kind of send out to fans, as you say, sadly missing from games?
Honestly, a real happy New Year. Thank you for all your support, online, offline, through the post, and I know you're all there. Believe me, I know it, and I feel your pain as much as you feel mine when we don't achieve the wins. But they've been fantastic. I've really made a lot of friends here, and like I say, it's hold your head up high time for everyone involved with Wycombe Wanderers. We're in the Championship, and we should be so proud of that.
Great to speak to Gareth. He did say he's looking to bring in more reinforcements in the January transfer window, and we have breaking news to bring you.
We do. In the last few seconds, it has been confirmed that Josh Knight will be returning to Adams Park on a loan deal until the end of the season. Fantastic news. Really, really good, because he has been absolutely wonderful. Great that we've secured him for another loan spell from Leicester until the end of the season.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for a top show. It's been very enjoyable. Plenty to catch up on the Cardiff and Middlesbrough front, and looking forward to a third round FA Cup tie on Saturday.
Absolutely, it will be very exciting. Let's fingers crossed that we are in the fourth round draw, and that maybe we pull out one of the big clubs, because that would be great, wouldn't it?
There is something really exciting about a good FA Cup run, isn't there? Obviously, we can look back to playing Liverpool at Villa Park and in the semi-final, but just to get to the latter stage of the competition and to be starting in the third round is really exciting.
I think it's the fact that you also then have the draw excitement as well. That means that you sort of get double excitement out of the FA Cup.
Yes, and to beat Preston would be good as well, because you were saying we drew earlier in the season as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Join us next week. Don't forget the podcast's available as well.